All right, here we go. Part one right here is telling us about Dixie Hunter Haley, right? Deciding to start their own business. And the thing to look at here too is that we're offering 3 different services, right? They're offering babysitting, grass cutting, and car washing all at the same time, right? They've rented their lawnmower, they've rented a hose, bucket, all this good jazz. These are things that they've bought, right? So later on, this will be their capital, right? The man-made things that they're using to make other stuff with, right? So the lawnmower, the hose, the soap, the bucket, that's all going to be considered capital, right? And it also says that Saturday, Mr. Art pays the trio to cut his grass, and then an extra $20 to wash his wife's car. And then also Mr. K hires the girls to babysit for him, right? So it says the first one right here, what type of economic system is depicted? Well, remember, we've got 3 choices right here. And our 3 choices are command, market, or mixed. Well, in this whole entire thing, this whole entire paragraph up here, we've never seen any mention about the government, right? So that's going to give it away to you that this is actually a market economy, right? Because this is only producers and consumers. And the producers in this case are Dixie, Haley, and Hunter. The consumers would be Coach Arp and Mr. K. All right, so in the above passage, what would represent capital? And again, we kind of talked about this a second ago, right? This is the hose, the soap, the bucket, and the lawnmower. All 4 of these things would be considered capital because these are things that are man-made, and these are things that they're going to use to produce other stuff with. All right, so moving on, who's the entrepreneur? In other words, who's the person who has started a business up in this case, right? And in that case, this one would be Haley, Dixie, and Hunter, right? It would be these 3 people. They're the ones who are actually starting up a business, so they're all 3 the entrepreneurs in this case. All right, the next one, number 4 right here, Mr. Art paying $20 to have his lawn cut freely and willingly. That's the key right here, right, is that he is free to do this. In other words, he gets to do this because he chooses to, right? It's nothing that anybody's forcing him to. So in this one, we're looking at this is voluntary exchange. All right, moving down to the next one, number 5, right? Oops, if I can get my mouse to work right here, sorry. All right, number 5, if the government steps in and decided to regulate the soap, right, what kind of soap that you're using. So in other words, the government's stepping in now, and they're saying, okay, producers, this is what you have to do. You have to do it this way. So who is that going to benefit? It would benefit Mr. Art, right? Well, because he's the one that's actually getting his car washed. He's the consumer. Remember, government regulation is meant to help consumers, right? So who would it cost? It would cost the girls, Dixie, Haley, and Hunter. All right, the next one, number 6. How can they use division of labor, right? Remember, division of labor is exactly what it sounds like. We're dividing up our labor, right? We're dividing up our workers. So we've got 3 workers, and if you remember from up here in the top, right? Let me scroll up here real quick, right? We've got Dixie, Hunter, and Haley, and they have 3 things that they're offering. They're offering babysitting, they're offering grass cutting, and they're offering car washing. So how they could do this and use division of labor is have one of the girls wash cars, have one of the girls cut grass, and also have one of the girls do the babysitting, right? So that each girl would only have one job that they would ever have to do. And this is also going to lead to specialization as well. All right, let me fix these real quick. They look kind of bad. All right, that way they actually show up a little bit better. All right, and then these 2 down here real quick, and then we'll move on to the next one. I'm sorry about this. Alright, so, alright, it asks us at point A, right, which point A is right here, right? Okay, let me make it a little bit bigger, that way you can see it. Okay, so at point A, how many guns are they producing at point A? Well, at point A, right here, right, where my mouse is, if we come all the way over, we see that they're making 1,200 guns, right? Well, how much butter are they making at point A? Again, we go to point A, and we're going to drop all the way straight down to right here. So they're making 4,000 butter at point A. Well, at point A, now it's asking, what is the opportunity cost? In other words, what are they giving up, right? Well, at point A, well, let's look at this. How many guns are they giving up, right? Well, they're giving up 800 guns because you got to think about it. Right now they're making 1,200, but what can they possibly make, right? If they put everything they had into making it, they could make 2,000 guns, but they're only making 1,200, so they're giving up 800 guns in this case, right? And then it's also, we got to look at, well, what is the opportunity cost in terms of butter as well? Well, if we look right here, how much butter can they make? They can make 5,000, but they're only making 4,000, right? So the difference between here is 1,000, right? So we're giving up 800 guns, and we're giving up 1,000 butter right here for number 8. All right, number 9, what could happen to allow us to move to point B? Well, again, look at this. Point B is way out here. It's outside of our curve, right? It's outside of our production possibilities. The only thing that could happen right here that would help us to get out this way would be that we had an increase in technology or that we have more resources available to us. All right, the circular flow model, I'm sorry, you just need to probably check your notes out because it's going to be really hard for me to draw this on here. If you need me to, actually, you know what, hang on one second before I say that. Let me see. Okay, so I have my households. I'm sorry, here we go. I have my firms. I have the product market. And I have the resource market. Okay, so that's product market. Households is right here. Firms is right here. Resource market at the bottom. Product market at the top. And so what we need to remember is how this all starts is the households start by spending money, right? And they go to the product market and they find themselves a firm that they like, right, wherever they want to spend. So you could pretend that this firm over here is Walmart, maybe, right? And in exchange for their money, what they want is goods and services, right? And I'm only going to write G and S here, right? But they want goods and services. Down here in the product market, down here on this side, on the bottom, right, the firms are going to take this money and they're going to send it to the households all the way back. In exchange, what they want are the factors of production. And I'm just going to write sell right here. But remember what the factors of production are capital, entrepreneurship, land, and labor. Oops, I'm sorry about that. Hit the wrong button. Okay, so here we go. And now moving on to our next one. All right, so here we go. All right, so the first one, number 11 right here, it says the nation of Arpia factories are expanding to keep up with rising consumer demand. Many citizens are demanding new products due to the tremendous economic growth that has taken place in the past several years. Through many of the cities that Arpia have prospered, some have been left in extreme poverty and homelessness. Despite the rise of property, here's the key. The government refuses to get involved. So automatically, because the government is not getting involved, we know that this is a market economy. All right, moving down to the next one, number 13, right? So the government of Botswana is working hard to provide a quality of life for all of its citizens. Okay, again, remember, look right here. The government is working hard, right? The nation has 100% employment, with most of the population working in government-owned factories. There's another big key. The government owns the factories, right? So the Botswana has eliminated poverty. Most of its citizens do not own many luxury items. This is primarily due to the lack of economic growth. Also, there are some products that consumers in Botswana really want, but they cannot get it, right? So again, the big key here is the fact that the government owns the factories. This tells us this is a command economy, right? And then the very last one, in the nation of Cambodia, businesses are working hard to produce the products that consumers are demanding. One of the obstacles that businesses are facing is increased government regulation. With a growing economy, consumers in Cambodia have more money to spend. However, some individuals are unemployed. The government in Cambodia is starting to provide free health care and welfare payments to help out-of-work citizens until they can find a job. All right, so a couple of keys that we need to look right here. It says businesses are working hard to produce, but then it's also telling us that the government is regulating and that the government is also helping down here. So because we have some market right here where the businesses are working, this is a market economy, but we also have the government down here doing some things. So this one, because we have the government and the market both working together. This is a mixed economy. All right, that's it. Again, you got any questions, just ask.